Welcome to Gecko Coding. I'm Dylan Miles. Today we're going to be creating a Hello World console-based application. The steps we're going to be taking is firstly downloading and installing the .NET Core SDK, creating the console application itself, and then publishing that application. Typically a software development kit consists of a couple of components. The main components are any tools needed to build an application. Like, for example, the main tool is the compiler, which takes your code and compiles it into some form of machine language necessary to run on a particular platform, as well as, and then the other main component of the SDK is the runtime, or any components necessary to run your application on a particular platform. So this SDK consists of a runtime, as you can see here, as well as an ASP.NET Core runtime for web-based applications and a .NET desktop runtime, depending on what you're doing. Because we're only writing a console application or creating a console application, we just need the .NET runtime component. And then there are a whole lot of other sets of tools, like, for example, the compiler that can compile C# code, for example. Down the left-hand side is the SDK itself, and down the right-hand side is the runtime. So as a software developer, you're going to download and install the SDK to your machine. For your clients, depending on how you package your applications, you might want to get them to install the runtime. I'm running on a Mac, and it's an Apple Silicon Mac, so I'm going to choose the ARM64 download here, download link. And if you're on Windows, for example, running probably an Intel, then you're going to choose the x64 link under Windows here. Once you've downloaded, simply just run it. It'll install to your machine. It's a self-contained installation, and then you should be able to take the next step, which we'll get into in a moment. Once you've installed the SDK, you're going to be able to type on your command line .NET info, and it should give you all the information about .NET Core SDKs already installed on your machine, or .NET runtimes as well. You can see I've got two SDKs here, version 6.0.201 and version 8.0.201. Within those SDKs are these runtimes, ASP.NET Core at 6 and Microsoft .NET Core 6 are both within the .NET 6 SDK runtime, and the version 8s of those runtimes are within the 8 SDK. Okay, so I'm primarily going to be using the .NET 8 SDK. Okay, so basically, once we've installed the .NET Core SDK, we want to create an application. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to make a directory. So I'm going to make a directory for our application. And I'm going to change into that directory. And then I'm going to create the application using the .NET command line. Okay, so just to explain what I'm doing here, there's the .NET command line. I'm telling it I want to create a new console-based application. So it'll be a command line application like the actual .NET command line application. And I want to use program main so that it actually expands the main function so that we can see the entry point for the application. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to go and do a few things and basically create a few files within this directory. I've got two main files here, program.cs and helloworld.csproj file. Both of, so it's good to get an idea of the files that are created in your project. Let's go have a look at each of these files. Okay, so the program.cs file here it's within the namespace of my project, Hello World. There's a class, a non-public class program, and it's got a static method called main, and this is the main entry point to the application. It's where the runtime, when the application starts, the runtime is going to look for the main function. It's got to be static. There's only got to be one instance within the application. Even if you have multiple instances of the program class, there's only one instance of the main function. And all it's going to do is write to the console hello world. Very simple. So here's my actual program. That's all it's doing at the moment. Okay, let's just quit out of that. I'm also then just going to go hello world, and let's have a look at the csproj file. It's an XML file, and it really contains all the information about the application that is needed to build it. So basically it's going to create an executable depending on the platform we choose. It might not be an exe with an exe extension like in Windows programs. It might be a different extension for different operating systems, but it will be executable depending on what platform we target. The target framework, so the runtime that this app will run with, .NET 8, the root namespace, implicit usings, and nullable. I'll leave more of the details for you to explore, but just so you've got an idea of what's in the project file. Notice there's no actual references to any files within my project like program.cs. Mostly by default, .NET is going to drive off from the folder structure. So basically it's going to assume CS files that it finds in this directory are part of your program. Okay, so just very simply, let's run the application, .NET run. So within the same application, the .NET command line is going to detect that I'm in the Hello World application, and therefore it's going to look for the closest csproj file and start from there. It's then going to build the file and run it, and there you can see printed to the console Hello World. So we've created a very simple console-based application. Okay, so that's our second step we are now done with. Just a note on that is we are using the command line here. I just wanted to not get into the weeds and different types of IDEs and the complexity there, but just show you a starting point from the command line with the least amount of friction possible to get started with your first line of code. There's a lot more we can explore in future videos around tooling and IDEs and debuggers and all of that kind of thing, but this is using a simple command line to get you started as easily as possible. Okay, so next what we're going to do now is look at publishing our application. Typically, we've got the SDK installed, and but ultimately you're going to want your clients to be able to run this tool. So how do you get it to them? How do you publish it so that it'll run on their machine? And they might not have the .NET. They might not have the .NET framework installed. Okay, so basically the simplest one is, let's just go .NET publish. This is going to create an executable that it can target any platform, but the .NET framework needs to be installed on that platform already. So let's see what it did. I'm just going to use a tool called NCDU, which allows us just to browse through the files easily. So you can see here's our bin directory. It's created a release folder, .NET 8, and within there a publish folder. Over here we have our actual program is in this DLL, so that's where the code we wrote has been compiled into a dynamic link library, or DLL. And here's the executable that is going to run and bootstrap that DLL. But again, when you run this app, you're going to need to run it with the .NET runtime installed, so you're probably also going to need to use .NET space hello world to actually run it. Let's just see if we can just let's see if we can actually run it. So I'm just going to create a shell in this directory itself. I'm in the publish directory now, as you can see. So just ls-lah. There's the hello world app. Let's just try run the hello world by itself, and it does actually run on OS X. I suspect this is the OS X bootstrap app. It'll be interesting to see if it does run on Windows or not. Okay, so let's now exit that and go back to our root directory for our project. And now I'm going to create and now I'm going to publish the app as a self-contained application for OS X. Okay, I'm just copying and pasting the command line here. I'm hitting run, and off it goes. It's done already. Let's look at our NCDU tool, and let's go into release, and there you can see it's created a platform specific folder now, OS X x64. If we'd also built the Windows platform, you'd see something like win-x64. Within this directory now, and I'll go into the publish directory, this is the directory that you'd actually distribute, there's a whole lot of extra DLLs and things here. This is everything needed, the whole .NET runtime framework that is needed to run this application. So it's a lot of extra things, but it is now self-contained. Your end user or your client won't need to have the .NET runtime installed, and you can literally sort of copy this directory to their machine and it'll run, which is fantastic. There's the actual DLL. Our code is only like 4 kilobytes long, 4 KB, but we have all these other DLLs necessary to run the app. I'm just having a look as well. There should be the hello world. There we go. There's the hello world executable for OS X. Okay. So let's quit out of that and let's go back to our agenda. So we've also now published our application, and let's also just quickly run it as well. So here we are. So running our self-contained application. And you can see that initially it takes a little while. It's doing a bit of a pre-compile step there. So at the second time we run it, it's much quicker because it's done that pre-compile step. There are ways to publish it, so when you package and build it, to do that pre-compilation step for your platform already, so it runs faster right off the bat. There are also quite a few other options where you can reduce the size significantly down of the whole app. Let's just have a look here at the actual size. You can see that the OS X, the publish directory there is 70 megabytes. With various optimization options where it only includes DLLs that are actually needed from the .NET runtime, and reducing culture-based culture information like error messages and extra languages that you don't necessarily need. I managed to get that down to about 20 megabytes, which is not too bad. Okay, so to finish off, let's just recap. We've installed the .NET Core SDK or Software Development Kit. We've created a console application. We've published our application, and we are complete. Well done. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe for future videos. There's a lot more we're going to be exploring, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.